Nope is a 2022 horror film written and directed by Jordan Peele, one of my favorite modern filmmakers. He brings us this time a story about M and OJ, a brother and sister duo who own and operate a horse ranch, Hollywood Horses, out in the middle of nowhere. They rent out these animals for films and commercials, and one day they notice something quite mysterious hovering above their ranch, which leads them to uncover some really dark and messed up things that will make you say, nope. Here it is, you guys and gals, the Nope review. I'm so excited to be talking about this movie. This was my most anticipated film of 2022. Get Out, which was Jordan Peele's directorial debut, was not only my favorite movie of the year it came out, but possibly my favorite modern horror film. And Us was also my favorite movie of its year, and was just one of my favorite modern horror movies again in general. Both of his movies I've really loved. I know Us has been not as appreciated as much as Get Out. Most people agree Get Out is really good. I really enjoyed Us. Us was far more of a horror movie. Get Out was kind of a psychological thriller, I guess you could say. And Nope here is, like the last two predecessors before it, a very different movie from the others. So it's hard to compare and contrast these movies just because of how different they are, but I will talk about the comparison toward the end of this review. Like I said, the plot for Nope basically is a brother and sister who are out in the middle of nowhere. They own horses for a horse ranch, and they begin to uncover something quite peculiar. Now, in the first initial trailers, we weren't entirely sure of what the plot was, but we got a good inkling that it might be aliens. And then later on, the trailers and everything really hinted at this movie being an alien type of horror film. And even by the last final trailers, we got a full shot of this giant UFO. The movie was shot in IMAX, and I actually saw it in the IMAX theater when it came out, so it was super exciting to experience this as it was intended. And it's far more of a grander film than Peele's other two movies, Get Out being this very kind of personal, smaller story. Us did have bigger stakes, but it was, in essence, just about that family. And what's funny is, despite the big scope of Nope, it really is a small story about a few little characters. You have the brother and sister, you also have a tech guy that helps them try to capture the UFO on camera, and you also have a man that owns what's called, I think it's called Jupiter's Landing, which is essentially this, like, carnival that's Western themed, where they actually host shows to showcase the UFO. Now, I'm going to try not to get into spoilers, and if I'm being honest, there aren't too many major spoilers, because unlike his other two movies, the plot twist isn't like the gotcha moment of the movie. It's more so a catalyst to continue the plot further and the themes of the movie. There are a lot of things I can talk about with Nope. I think I'll start out with the technical components, which it was basically flawless across the board. Cinematography-wise, perfect. I think the actors did a fantastic job. The music was really well done. The lighting, I mean, there's all of that technical stuff is down to a T, and Jordan Peele's direction needs no introduction. The story is definitely the most interesting of the three movies, and the most unpredictable, I would say, with Get Out being a very structured movie, and this movie, Nope, like Us, really puts the themes of the movie above the actual logical substance of the movie, which isn't necessarily a bad thing per se, but I could see it deterring some filmgoers who want kind of a straightforward plot. This is more of, I don't want to say an artsy movie, but it definitely dips more into that realm. It's more about the feeling that it gives you and the themes of the movie being presented than it is about logically making sense. But in essence, if I dabble a little more into the plot beyond the trailers, you have these These two people, again, M and OJ, played by Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya. I don't want to butcher his last name, but they're both equally fantastic. Daniel's role in this is a lot more subtle and a lot more reserved, whereas Keke gets to kind of be the forefront of the character and the wit. They both are doing a great job. And in the movie, their siblings, like I said, their father is killed from a mysterious accident. Things raining down from the sky hit him. And then later on in the movie, you find out that there is a UFO that hovers above their ranch, and they decide that they want to get pictures of it to capture it on video and on camera to have evidence of a UFO. And that ties in very heavily to the theme of the movie, which is spectacle and exploitation. There are some side plots too, with their cast of horses playing a big role, as well as the guy who owns Jupiter's Landing, his story, because he used to be in television and worked on a television show where the central character was a monkey named Gordy. And in one episode of this television show, things turned disastrous and it became something of a snuff lost film. That subplot was really intriguing to me, and it was, in my opinion, the scariest part of the movie. And that scene, you know the one I'm talking about, is nightmare fuel and absolutely terrifying. It hits close to home too, because I live in Florida, and not too far away there was a woman who was actually mauled by a chimpanzee and her face was disfigured. So there are things that tie from real life that go into the presentation of the movie, and it made it all the more scary. I've noticed some people complaining that that particular subplot doesn't tie into the entire movie. And I guess, again, this goes back to my thing of saying the theme above the logic. Technically, from like a story level, it doesn't follow all the way through to the end. However, thematically, it ties into kind of trying to restrict nature and exploit it for our personal gain. Again, I'm trying to dance around any spoilers that I might be tackling, but I do think that you have to understand these things to get at the heart of the review of Nope. And as I've mentioned, it's the themes and how they're presented to the audience that really becomes the forefront of Nope. I do feel like there are some gripes that I do have with this movie, more so, probably more than his other movies. And that isn't to say that I did not enjoy Nope, because I really did. In the first two acts I thought were really powerful, very intense and creepy. It's the last act that kind of, I don't know, it kind of made me less interested in the story, and there were some choices that I was confused about. So my first thing is, while I understood thematically the story behind Gordy and the boy that grew up to be very troubled by that encounter, is I wish that that would have gone somewhere in his life. His story does get cut abrupt, and I'm not going to spoil what happens with him, but I will say I wish that would have tied in to something. I wish maybe he would have realized that his current life situation was not the way he should have been going. He was using exploitation when he realized the dangers of that from his childhood. That never really came up, and I wish that it did. But my main criticism is that the final act kind of feels more fantastical than it does horrific. It feels more fantasy than horror. And I know that Peele has said that this movie dives into that Spielbergian type of storytelling, like Close Encounters of the Third Time and Jaws, and it's like a bigger, grander story. I like, though, the first two acts of being more subtle horror, whereas the third act kind of becomes this big, elaborate show. And once you kind of know the plot twist and the developments that are uncovered in the middle, the final act just becomes kind of wrapping those up. And even then, I feel like the theme wasn't wrapped up. The movie just kind of ends, and I really wish that we could have gotten some resolution, or at least some kind of beat. I don't want to go into what happens in the end, but let's just say that the characters kind of get what they want, but there's never really any further explanation beyond that. It just kind of ends. I really wish there was something more to it, because that's what the movie was building up to. I do like the entire set of the Jupiter landing. I feel like it was a good set piece, as well as the farmhouse, the ranch. But I know that they're using the landing actually as the backlot, a part of the Universal Studios backlot in Hollywood. So it goes to show that this was a bigger production than Peele's other movies. I do think that the first two acts were very strong. The third act was still entertaining, but it did falter for me, dipped a little bit into fantasy. But I do respect Peele for doing something original, sticking to his guns, and sticking to his themes that he wants to present. I do think that this is a movie where it could be open to a lot of interpretations, and if you stick with me in just a moment, I'll go into the spoilers, and I'll explain what I was talking about, but I didn't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it yet. But that is my overall review for Nope. I would probably give it... I don't know. I kind of don't want to rank it yet, because my opinions on Us really changed over time, and I'd hate to not do Nope justice. Right now, it's probably between a 3.5 to 4 out of 5 for me. And right now, I'd say Get Out, Us, and Nope is my order for Jordan Peele rankings. I think the arbitrary rankings are a little stupid because there are only 3 movies that he's done at this point, direction-wise. But I don't want to be quick to judge it. I'd like to see it again. Maybe I'll have some follow-up thoughts in a future video. But this was a really amazing experience at the movies. Definitely one of my favorite films of the year. And Jordan Peele continues to surprise. Like I said, some of those story beats kept it away from being what I think it truly could have been. But he was taking a direction that was risky, and I like the risk. I think it paid off, and I'm ready to see where Jordan Peele goes next. Bear with me, because we're going to get into some spoilers. Well, if you could tell, I was really like I was trying to be very cautious with what I said in that earlier discussion, because I didn't want to spoil Nope, because it's an awesome movie and I don't want anyone to miss out on the twists and turns. But the main twist is that the UFO itself is the alien. There are no little aliens. There's a fake out at the beginning where you think there's little aliens running around. They're not. They're kids dressed up. And the creature is the UFO. And it ties into the theme of exploitation, because the chimpanzee, Gordy, was exploited by the television studio. The horses are somewhat being exploited, though maybe in a not as cruel or vicious or kind of manipulative way as Gordy. But in the same way, they are being used by M and OJ. And the UFO, if you think about it, UFOs in pop culture are like the thing that everyone wants to see and get on video. And they become something of a spectacle in their own way. So the movie, I think Peele was trying to put that at the forefront of saying, this is something that everyone wants to see. And the whole point of OJ not looking at it was to show that you have to respect it to not look at it. The same way that Gordy wanted to do the fist bump, or with the horses, taking care of the horses, is showing respect to them. So it was a really interesting theme, thematic-wise, in terms of greed and exploitation when it comes to spectacle. Because typically these big, grand, like summer blockbuster type movies embrace the spectacle, whereas here it kind of shows the dangers of that spectacle. And we see that with the horses and the monkey, and then we see how it affects the UFO or jean jacket, depending on what you want to call it. So like I said, there's a lot more I could talk about with Nope. I might save that for a future video, though. I could really get into kind of the meta-ness of it, because I do think it has something to say about the showmanship of Jordan Peele himself, and how we might view his movies, and how we might view horror in general, maybe, as kind of this spectacle, when we realize that maybe there are some things in it that we want for our own personal gain. It's very deep, I guess you could say. I don't like to really get into that deep, like, breaking down stuff on my channel, because this is just a very simple review for you guys. But I highly recommend you go see Nope for yourself, make your own opinions for it, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are you as excited as I am for Jordan Peele's next movie? Let me know in the comments. And remember, for all things Halloween, this is Hauntformer.